And that brings us to the co-main event here for UFC 329. McGregor taking on Holloway 2. If you're enjoying the content, hit that like and subscribe button, as we've got one hell of a co-main event here between Paddy the Baddy Pimblett taking on Benoit Saint-Denis. And let's start off with Paddy the Baddy, obviously coming off of his first UFC loss to Justin Gaethje in that #1 contender spot. Wasn't able to get it done. I think he fought a bad game plan in that one. I would like to have seen him get back to the wrestling or at least mix it in. But ultimately, he wanted to stand and trade with Justin, and he paid the price. But that loss hasn't necessarily aged too badly. Justin, now the current champion after winning the belt from Ilia Topuria at UFC Freedom 250. Paddy, obviously a decorated grappler, does a good job of being able to get people to the ground. When he gets you to the ground, he's not necessarily playing all-out jiu-jitsu. He is softening you up with elbows. He's beating you up, getting into dominant positions, and we saw that against Michael Chandler. He is very big for the weight class. When he does cut weight, once all of a sudden he cuts weight, it's very surprising that he's able to make the weight, because once he balloons up and rehydrates, he is a very big guy for the weight class. He's been able to implement his will on a lot of his fights, when it comes to his grappling, and his striking is always improving. He blasts kicks from the outside. He really frustrates you with those kicks, out at range, and that allows people to kind of dart in where he looks to counter with that right hand that he keeps cocked. He does a good job of pumping out the jab, and he's working on his striking. There's no doubt about that. He was just outmatched from a better striker in Justin Gaethje, and I think he could have come in and mixed in some grappling. But when it comes to Benoit Saint-Denis, obviously a former French Special Forces, very tough, very durable, and obviously a great well-rounded fighter. He's got good grappling, he's got good striking as well, he's got good kickboxing, nice head kicks, keeps the striking very fundamentally sound, 1-2, and then throws the head kick upstairs. He'll light up the lead leg. And obviously, the one performance I can't really get out of my head is the Renato Moicano loss that he had over in France in that main event. He got taken down, he got controlled, he got beaten up with elbows, and ultimately he got finished by Dr. Stoppage, I believe, in that one. So what I would like to see Paddy come in here and do is ultimately repeat the Michael Chandler performance. Come in here, mix in some grappling, take Benoit Saint-Denis down and beat him up the same way that Moicano did. I think that's what we're going to see here from Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. The key victory that Benoit Saint-Denis is lacking is against a top-level, high-level named guy. A lot of these guys that he's been fighting have been in that sort of 10 to 15 range, the lower end of the division. And I think Paddy Pimblett, obviously losing to the current champion, is going to give him confidence that he needs to be able to get back on the mountain and just come in with a different game plan heading into his bout with a #1 contender spot or hopefully a title later on down the line. But ultimately, I see Paddy frustrating him with kicks and ultimately getting this fight to the ground and being able to get a stoppage victory here. I'm going to say that he gets this one done by club and sub. I think Benoit Saint-Denis has shown a weakness in the grappling. And I think at times, he's good being the hammer, but he's not a good nail. He is very tough, don't get me wrong. It's not a slight on him by any means. But I think once things start going downhill for him, his overly aggressive style gets him caught. And I think at times, you see that in the Dustin Poirier performance. He came out very aggressive against Dustin. He looked to take him down. He weathered an early storm, having to fight off the guillotine. And then ultimately, when he stood and trade in the pocket, because of his over-aggressive style, he was able to get countered and ultimately end up getting mopped and dropped by Dustin Poirier. Even though I don't think that Paddy has that kind of skill set to be able to capitalize on those holes, I do think that Benoit Saint-Denis coming in over-aggressive is going to allow Paddy to be able to level change and open up opportunities for takedowns. I think that's going to wear on Benoit Saint-Denis, and I think we could see Paddy Pimblett getting a late second or third round finish here by ground and pound. That's how I'm going to see this one playing out. Give me Paddy the Baddy Pimblett as the slight underdog here, mixing in the grappling, going back to the well, and ultimately getting this one done by club and sub or TKO with ground and pound. And let's see who Carlos has got in this matchup.
Okay, in this one, I'm going to go with Paddy Pimblett to get it done. And I think that Saint-Denis is a tough guy. He can grapple and he has strong takedowns, but, he kind of relies on his strength. And he kind of bullies his opponent early, but I don't believe he can do that with Paddy. I don't think he can just come in, bull him up against the cage and force these takedowns that he likes to get and get him down and force a submission on him. He just doesn't have that ability to do so. And Paddy, he's skilled on the ground as well. And once you get him down, Paddy's always moving. He's always bridging, always going to his hip, always shrimping, working to get to better position. And I don't think Saint-Denis can control him on the ground enough to unleash some of that ground and pound that we saw against Dan Hooker. And that was the stuff that was able to slow down Hooker and allow Saint-Denis to get the advantage. But Pimblett, he's not going to be that way because he's like I said, he's constantly moving. He's not going to be able to get positioned, land big strikes on him. I think that Paddy's also got the advantage when it comes to the striking department. I think he hits a lot heavier than people think, and I think he hits a lot heavier than Saint-Denis. And Saint-Denis' defense on the feet, his head stays on center line, doesn't really have a very good guard defense. And I think Paddy, he's going to rip at his legs. Paddy loves to throw heavy kicks, and he throws his punches. He's got everything behind it, whips those heavy shots. And I just think that, to me, I feel that once Paddy hurts him, and I feel he's going to, I don't think it's an if, I think it's when he hurts him, that's when he's going to jump on him and get the finish. So I'm going to go with Saint-Denis. When he gets hurt, I'm going to go with Pimblett in this one, because when Saint-Denis gets hurt, he can't necessarily come back most of the time. So Paddy Pimblett to get it done.